Weymouth has been doing the work for a while. Braintree is newer, but not as new as we are. And it's really more of a prevention model than it is a treatment model, this particular grant.
Right.
So it's, although we do get resources and we're able to send people in the right direction, the real goal is to have a prevention, as Caroline said, it's called a strategic prevention framework. That's what the state is asking us to.
So it's more or less like a planning grant.
Yes.
Yeah. But being with these other communities that have been in this work for a long time, you're really gaining the knowledge that they have. For instance, the Learning to Cope group, which is a parent support group for opiate users. It's a Quincy-based group. It's gotten so big. I mean, Milton parents are using that group. They're having to find bigger spaces. So in other words, there's already people out there utilizing some of the treatment, so to speak, or resources or support. This will just help us be a little bit more coordinated and also to have a specific plan. That's the whole idea of it. You have to have a plan. You can't just be reacting to what's going on. You have to know.
It's a whole process. So
It's a whole process.
Assessment, capacity, planning, implementation, and evaluation. So it's a long process, but we have to get the data to find out what the problems are in Milton to address them.
I see. Good, great.
Excellent. I'll make a motion
I think we have a revised motion, do we have? Okay.
to agree that the town of Milton will participate in the Massachusetts Substance Abuse Prevention Collaborative Department of Public Health request for response document number 160222 with Quincy, Weymouth, and Braintree to prevent underage drinking and other drug use across the Commonwealth.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so
Good job,
much.
Vicki.
Thank you very
Caroline.
much. We appreciate your being here tonight.
Excellent. Thank you.
We're waiting.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a hearing on unbilled sewer charges for 329 Canton Avenue. And I believe we have, you must be Mary Moore.
Yep. How are you?
Welcome, Ms.
Very good.
Moore.
How you doing?
Hey, Mary.
Hi.
And I'll just mention our Assistant Town Administrator, Michael Blanchard, is also present. He conducted the initial
Correct.
review and appeal in this matter. So we'll open a hearing in this, and Ms. Moore, we have your written information, but would you like to give us a little bit of a background or a presentation on this?
Did you already review that, or?
Yes, we have your written comments, but anything that you would like to
Add
present
to
to
it,
us?
or-
No, other than the fact that my parents, I've written stuff down myself, did live in the town for over 35 years, and when this situation arose last year, my mother had just recently been diagnosed with cancer, so when she got the letter, my mother was legally blind. I take care of all their stuff, and she was really upset, so I had called and up to the town and asked, you know, what it was, because I haven't lived in the town in 30 years myself. And it was explained to me that that my parents had not been paying sewer charges, and my mother was completely unaware of it, and my father did not know either. And I couldn't understand how, for 35 years, something like that could even be an oversight to begin with. My parents, when they bought the house, it was brand new. And I spoke with a woman first, I think her name was Darlene, and then she had given me the name of somebody else to speak to. So I did, and that was Mr. Lynch, and I just said, how does something like this happen? How can something for 35 years go undetected and just be noticed? And he said it was, and there was some other houses that were involved in it. Which I said, okay. So I said, where is that gonna take us? And he said, well, we're not going back on it. It's going forward. I said, okay, and that's fine. I understand. I explained that to my mother. And then I also went into detail because they do have a sprinkler system. So I'm like, well, obviously that's gonna, take effect. And he discussed with me a device that they could put in, and I said, you know what, let's go through the season. I understand, I explained to my mother. So that's where I got a little upset when I get a letter, because my parents have since both passed away.
Mary,
in
can I
April
ask,
and May,
sorry
yes.
to cut, was the sprinkler system on a separate meter or on the,
No,
on the same meter?
everything is the same.
Okay, all
All of it's the same.
Yep, sorry.
So my parents, as I explained, passed away in April and May, and I put the house on the market several months ago, and I get a letter in the mail in October stating that we're going to go back 4 to 6 years. 4 years or 6 years, whatever it might be. And I'm like, I don't understand why this is happening. I mean, I realize I did not come up here, get anything in writing from somebody at that time. Both my parents were sick. It wasn't a priority. I took it for granted when I was on the phone with, Mr. Lynch, that this was going to be a done deal, and we weren't going to go back, any further. So since then, I just feel it was not something that my parents deliberately did. My parents never knew that there was any type of bill, because honestly, I've been paying our bills for 15 years. When the bill came in and it said water, I paid the total. I didn't look to see, I just paid the total water bill. And I just feel at this point that, I don't understand why my siblings and I should bear the hardship of something that I do not feel was an issue that my parents neglected. They certainly did not know about it. And if they had, and looking back into this letter right here, it says that there are some owners that have voluntarily come forward, and I think that's, that's great that they did that. And had my parents known, I'm sure they probably would have been the first two up here. But I just, on principle alone, I do not think it's right that they should have to incur a $5,500, even if it is only going back to 4 years, based on the fact that I spoke to someone here and they said it wasn't going backwards, and then all of a sudden, it's going forward.
Just one quick question. See, the house is 35 years old and your parents bought it new.
Yes.
Was it connected to town sewage from when it was brand new, or was?
Well, I don't know. The builder, when he built it, I mean, I honestly don't know, because
And
I
to your
was...
knowledge, they never added sewage after they?
No, the builder built, there was several houses that he built. He built the one beside, and I think the one or two behind, I'm not even actually sure, because I moved in there, I mean, I was in my last year of high school, so it's not anything that I would really know.
Okay.
Do we have other questions or comments for
Mary, you
Ms.
mentioned,
Moore?
how many houses were built at that particular time?
I know the one next to my parents was, it's to the left of them.
By the same builder?
By the same builder, and I think the one that's diagonal, it's a brown one, and I think it's actually on Vose's. I think those three were built in around the same time, by the same person.
Interesting to see if the other two are on sewer.
Yeah, which I'm sure we've probably checked, but don't know
I
that
guess
for
my
a fact.
point is, if Mary's house is not on sewer and the other two are, maybe it's just an error by the town, I don't know, but I think it might be worth looking into.
Well, I guess the problem is, we took that into consideration when we went through the agreement, that there was no way to determine, and the agreement we tried to draft an agreement that wasn't really placing blame or fault on either side, just saying that the facts are the facts, that there has been, that the house has been receiving free sewerage for a number of years, and to go back for a period of time, the law technically would have allowed us to go back probably further than that. We chose not to, and chose not to try and place any blame or even try and figure out what the cause was. And clearly, we recognize it could be that all the permits were pulled and somewhere along the line the town lost the paperwork, or it could be an illegal connection. We didn't want to figure out which was which. We just decided to, all the ones that were illegally hooked up, or hooked up and not receiving bills, I shouldn't say illegally hooked up and not receiving bills, we decided to go back either 4 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think the policy does say in certain circumstances, it could be more than the 6 years, it could be back to from the first connection, but that's in very limited circumstances.
Right.
So do we have, is there anything else that you want to add? I think we should take any other factual information, then we can discuss it among ourselves.
No, I don't have anything. I mean, I'm here tonight, they had the letter. He has me on his last meeting, and I don't think I have anything else to.
Okay. We do have Michael here if there's any questions for Michael, or if there's any further information that needed to be added.
Are we going to vote tonight, or do you?
Yes, why don't we get all the factual information out, and then we can have a discussion about it. I don't see anyone else here from the public, but if there's anyone else who wanted to address this,
I do have one other
they should
question.
come.
The sprinkler system, had the sprinkler system been in place for a number of years, or is that relatively new?
I can't even answer you that. I only lived there probably 4 or 5 years before I moved out, so.
Was it in then, do you know?
I don't think so, but I honestly don't know if that's something that he put in. I can't even help you out with that.
Okay.
It seems, Ms. Moore, that you had two comments, really. One was that the policy in and of itself was not fair, and then the second point seemed to be that
Well,
you're...
I think what I'm probably a little bit more is that when I made that initial phone call back when the first letter came out and spoke in depth with somebody and purposely said, what is going to happen and where is this going to go? And when the person, and then there's no recollection of it, and to say that, no, we're not going to go back, we're going to go forward, and then all of a sudden, now we're going forward. So I took it for granted that, yes, I totally agree with going forward. If there was something wrong, let's go forward. And I explained that to my mom and dad at that time, and they're like, okay. And again, they're like, how does it go on for 35 years and someone does not detect it? They're getting a water bill, they're paying the water bill, and how would someone know? When you get your credit card bill, you get your total, and if there's going to be a breakdown, there's the breakdown, you pay your bill. And then for someone to say, no, we're not going to go backward, and then all of a sudden, my parents passed away, I don't know of anything that's going on in the town of Milton. I don't live in Milton, I live in Braintree. And then to find out that, I put the house in the market, and then I'm getting a letter in October saying, okay, we're going to bill you $5,500, and we're going to go back 4 years.
Yeah, and just to explain a little bit of that, and that's what I thought was your second argument, was your first point seemed to be that the policy itself was unfair, but the second piece of that seemed to be that the prospective, you thought it was going to be applied prospectively, and it's actually being applied retroactively.
Right.
As well for 4 years. The policy does provide for 6 years for a look-back period based on the statute of limitations. But I believe this was in the first group that was identified, so when there was a reference earlier to people coming forward, that was really for, once the DPW made it known that there was this problem, that identified a number of homes that probably were not, there was no record that they were connected to the town system, but it was believed that they were, and that some of the septic records between the Board of Health and the DPW weren't matching up, so that there was a problem identified, and the idea was, we've identified X number of them, I think it was something like 22, and then subsequently, if anyone else who wasn't on the initial list came forward, then there would be an opportunity to only go back 4 years rather than 6 years, because it's saving us a little bit of administrative work and cost there. So that's the reason for the 4 years rather than the 6 years, and the reference to coming forward. But the DPW director, Joe Lynch, was very involved with this board going back to last winter, getting this policy in place. And we had it came up at a few meetings, so there was a discussion over a period of a few months where we were formulating the policy, talking about the look-back period, and talking about how we were going to handle it. I don't think we adopted this finally until the spring.
Right.
This particular policy.
The first group that was found was billed going forward.
Yes.
before the policy was in place.
Yes, that's right. So it sounds as though the bill that your parents initially got was for the prospective charges, and then the policy was ultimately adopted to go back.
Yeah, well, it was the piece of paper, the letter that came out that was saying that going forward, that it's been detected,